Hello and welcome back to All the Termina Contestants Explained. The first video did decently well, and if you don't remember, I said I was thinking about doing a book review in it, and some people in the comments seemed to like that idea, so I might actually do it, so look out for that. In addition to that, if you saw the last video, you know this is a part 2 to the video I made last week, so click here if you really want to see it. I actually am going to upload both of them edited together next week, as well as another video. You obviously don't have to watch the full edited together version, but I just wanted it all together just for posterity's sake. But either way, I appreciate you guys, and let's get back into All Termina Contestants Explained Part 2. Really quick though, before the video starts, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. We just hit 8K subs, and I am really so thankful for it. Let's try to get to 10K by the end of the year, and if we do, I might do something crazy. Anyway, I love you all, and please enjoy the video. For our first Termina contestant today, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Marco. Born in January of 1911, he was born in the Fear and Hunger equivalent of Sicily. You might ask how we know that, and it is kind of headcanon, but we do know that he was born near the Vatican at least. And in Fear and Hunger 2, there's a quote that he can say, and he will say, "In my home country, we'd have a saying for places like this. Uni pesi scampi us signori." Which I'm not Italian, so that probably sounded like shit, but it is a very common saying in Sicily, according to the wiki at least. So we know he's Italian, and most likely he's specifically Sicilian. But he mentions he had a good home life 1 minute, and then the next thing he could remember, his parents were dead, and he and his sister, who isn't named, were on their own on the streets. This was about when he was 10 years old only, so he had to find a way to live on the streets now. Here, he could choose to become a pickpocket, a burglar, or try to live an honest life. Either way, the streets will beat him down. Hard. He was a small boy, and he was relentlessly bullied for it. As the years passed, though, he hit a growth spurt. And another. And another. Soon, he was the big one, and more muscular than even the bullies, able to easily dispatch them to protect himself and his sister. He began to learn that he could make more money by using violence than anything else. Despite this, however, Marco was a softie, and he refused to do any work for gangs or be a bruiser at all. At one point, he learned about an underground fighting rink, however, where he could use his fighting prowess without killing anyone to make some money. Soon, he would beat almost every opponent one by one. Years would pass, and his sister would eventually start a relationship with a man named, I shit you not, Riccardo Arcardo, a high-ranking mob boss, and apparently the next in line to the whole mob itself. Once Riccardo and Marco's sister started dating, Riccardo was very nice at first to Marco, acting like a perfect gentleman. Eventually, Riccardo asked Marco if he wanted to join the family as a bruiser. Marco politely declined, and surprisingly, Riccardo took it well, and instead offered Marco up with a real boxing coach. One that could not only make him famous, but get him tons of money and increase his fighting skills to the next level. Marco, although hesitant at first, eventually agreed after his sister told him that he should go for it. Marco would eventually meet his trainer, and his trainer trained him in whatever way Marco wanted. Marco, won over by this act of good faith, thought that maybe Riccardo was actually not that bad of a guy after all. He would spend more and more time with his new friend, though without realizing it, he was getting absorbed into the mob itself. After a while, Riccardo told Marco something that he needed done. He needed Marco to kill his next opponent in the ring, as he was a rival mobster. Marco, of course, refused. Riccardo then told him that he had set him up with all these trainers and fights, and Marco needed to listen to him. Marco, once again, refused. Riccardo then tried a different tactic. He threatened his sister's life. Marco now had no choice but to accept, and so he did just that. He couldn't put his sister's life in danger, so he did the only thing he could. He killed his opponent. After this, Riccardo continued to get Marco to do jobs for him. Every single time, he made sure to leverage his sister's safety. Every time, Marco had no choice but to accept. Before he knew it, he was an enforcer for the Arcardo family. Eventually, Marco had enough, though. Day after day, it ate at him until he finally snapped. No matter what, he had to kill Riccardo. So Marco went to go see him one day. And even surrounded with his other enforcers, Marco managed to get one good clean hit in against him, killing him instantly. He did it so fast that no enforcer could even touch him. Now that Riccardo was dead, Marco just had to leave. He managed to do that with only a few nicks and cuts. Now he had a different problem though. The law and the mob were both after him. So he decided to flee the country. Right before he could, however, he got a call from his sister. She had been in the country of She had been in the country of Valand in Ricardo's summer home. Marco told her to stay put, and he would get on the first train there. He would only have one stop beforehand, Prehevel. Here he would witness horrors of the Termina Festival, and that's where the game begins. He only has a few events that can happen if you aren't playing as him, though. At first, he will stay with Olivia, a character we will talk about in a bit, but Olivia is wheelchair bound, and if you aren't playing as her, she will not have a wheelchair right off the bat. So Marco, being the nice guy that he is, will go look for one. On day 2, he will run into Pav, as well as Tanaka, if Tanaka is even still alive. Pav will stop Tanaka and Marco, threatening them, and telling them that he is going to kill them both. And if you don't intervene, Pav will indeed kill them both. But if you do intervene, you will have to kill Pav. After this, Marco will get the wheelchair to Olivia and train Tanaka in the ways of the fist. And once again, that is if Tanaka is even still alive at this point. They will both train until they both moonscorch. If not, Marco will just wait around the train until he will moonscorch into the giant. If you are playing as Marco, the only event is Kalogura recognizing you and trying to kill you if you sleep in certain locations. He will say he recognizes you and he will try to kill you, but if you say certain things, he will back off. If Marco wins the festival, he will never speak of it again. He will try to just forget what happened in Prehevel. He will get on the next train and find his sister. He won't even tell her what happened in Prehevel. He will just open a gym in Valand to train people in case this ever happens again. Or he can live and do the exact same thing, presumably, if he survives if someone does ending A before he moonscorches. But that's all there is to Marco. A gentle giant. Next up is Marina. Marina is an interesting case, and she was born in November of 1923. She was born right in the Church of Alll-Merr in Prehevel, which you can actually visit in-game. She was born to a dark priest and a caring mother. However, when she was born, her father was not there. But something horrible happened in Marina's mother's eyes when she was born. She was born a man. Marina's mother knew what happened to men who were born in her father's lineage. They became dark priests. A horrible fate that made prospects kill and do horrible rituals. So to shield Marina from her fate, Marina's mother raised her as a woman. Her mother's plan worked, and she was shielded from the duty of becoming a dark priest. She was homeschooled in occultism and had a pretty good talent for it. She was noticed by the Vatican and was given the offer to go study occultism further there. Her mother was very proud and told her to go for it. But her father found out her secret. Her father found out that she was born a man, and her father was furious. Marina, despite this, said she would remain a girl. She said it felt more natural, and who cared? She liked who she was, and with that, she made her way to the Vatican. There she grew her knowledge and prowess in occultism ever more, though she felt someone was always watching her here. But anyway, one day she got a letter from her father. It said that her mother had passed away. Just as simple as that. No sympathy, no love, no nothing else. Marina tried to call home, but no phone lines worked in Prehevel at all. She felt very uneasy about this and felt as if her father did something really horrible in town. So she boarded the first train there. And there, the game starts. Marina has quite a few things that are unique to her. Every once in a while, you can see some girl watching you, and your goal is to make your way to the church where your father is. If you're not playing as Marina, she will eventually be kidnapped by the gentleman mayor. If not that, she will be in the bookstore, or you can take her to the church if you're going that direction too. If you get to the church at the beginning of day 1, that girl who is watching you will be there. She will stab Marina's father, who will not die there but fade into the ground. So Marina's father probably doesn't die, but Marina will assume he does. Even if you aren't Marina, you will see this scene. Another scene that can happen, although more rare, is in Prehevel Bob, the club. If Dan and Marina are there, they will have a funny interaction where Dan will ask Marina if she's even old enough to drink, where she will say yes, she's 18, which apparently is the drinking age in Bohemia. I'm American, so it's 21 here, so I found that strange, but whatevs. Marina will say she doesn't have her ID on her, and Dan will refuse to serve her a drink. So Marina will say she'll just go look in a trash can or something for a bottle, which is a funny little nod to the game itself. Other than that, that's really all we have for Marina. Olivia is up next, and she's probably my second favorite playable Termina contestant. She was born on December 31st, 1921, along with her twin sister, who was also born into this world on January 1st, 1922, and her name was Relia. They were born in the Bremen Empire. In their early life, Olivia and her twin sister were very close, despite being polar opposites. Olivia was introverted, and she liked to read books and play with plants, while her sister was outside playing with other children and playing pretend. About a decade later, when they were both around 15, something unfortunate happened. Olivia had a series of strokes and lost movement in her legs. If she got to a doctor fast enough, the movement in her legs could have been saved. But unfortunately, the household they lived in was extremely religious. They didn't believe in modern medicine and science, and all they did was pray for her to get better, which didn't work. I guess they weren't dedicated to Sylvian enough. Because of this, she now had to use a wheelchair, at least for a long time. A couple of years later, Olivia and her sister both got scholarships to a prestigious university in the Bremen Empire. Here, Olivia and Relia would study in their individual areas of study. Olivia would study botany, and Relia would study engineering and New Age technology. Relia would be a social butterfly and start a relationship with a teacher. Joker would be proud. Olivia, although jealous, advanced in her own field. Relia would then get the opportunity of a lifetime, an exchange program between the Bremen Empire and the Eastern Union. Olivia would graduate and open her own greenhouse. She would eventually lose touch with her sister, however, much to her dismay. Not only this, her parents got a letter that she was being accused of treason and is in an Eastern Empire jail. Later, somehow, news had broke that she had busted her way out of jail by a known terrorist/freedom fighter organization known as the Nameless Liberty Underground, or the NLU for short. She had heard the name before, and it was from that professor that Relia was dating, only to find out that he was executed for being in association with that same group. She went through his stuff and found letters from Relia, and it was about a weapon that she was developing, something called the Logic Project. The last letter talked about the Kaiser, the leader of the Bremen Empire, and he was after something in this town called Prehevel. So Olivia went to go find her sister. Olivia has no huge interactions in the game, but if you play as her and do ending A, it will lead you to Relia, her sister, who has become the machine god, Logic. So I'm going to assume this is the canon ending for Olivia, but we really don't know. If she wins the festival, however, and does ending B, she will become happy, strangely enough. She learned that her wheelchair doesn't define her. Although it was through killing people, she was the sole survivor. Her wheelchair didn't matter. She was better than the other 13 people. She will roam the countryside, just happy to be alive, which is kind of sweet. The final playable Termina contestant, give it up for Osa, the Yellow Mage. Born in 1910 in Abyssinia, a previously unmentioned country as far as I'm aware in the Fear and Hunger universe until Fear and Hunger 2, Abyssinia is a war-torn nation, and Osa had little love for his home country, though he did become an apprentice in a church but refused to participate in any war efforts. He would continue his studies and started outclassing several peers until he was led in the secrets of the church. Here, however, he learned something that he didn't like. In this church, they mostly used religion as a political tool, not to actually worship. They used religion to control over lower status people. He hated this, and he decided he didn't want to be a part of it. Right around this time, he found a scroll in his church about a group of mages who used religion for their own benefit, but also to further knowledge about the universe. They also believed in the natural state of the universe, and that natural state was chaos. The only constant in the world is change, after all. He then traveled to the Eastern Sanctuaries, and was met with disdain due to his beliefs. However, the Yellow Mages eventually found him. They offered him to join and taught him about Gro-Goroth and the other old gods. As he traveled the group, they traveled far and wide, and they found a man named Hadil-Azif, an extremely strong and powerful magician. This magician wanted to make his way to the infamous Dungeons of Fear and Hunger, and find something. Osa dismissed him at first, but he was plagued with nightmares, so horrible that Osa even himself started to believe the things that the magician was saying. He then eventually did join and went on that journey with that mage. And as he got closer and closer to the dungeons, people would start to drop out of the adventure one by one. Osa, however, remained strong. Here you get a choose-your-own-adventure style thing, but nothing you really do matters too much. But no matter what happens, you will find a charred head. And even stranger than that, it was talking. The charred head said his name was Nashra. Nashra told Osa to gain more power, all he had to do was follow his own greed and lust for power, no matter what he had to sacrifice to get it. And to help even further, Nashra told Osa to go to a town called Prehevel. So Osa, following his lust for power, did exactly that. He boarded the first train to Prehevel. Here he was struck by the same problem that all of the other contestants had. Osa has a lot of interaction. At several points throughout the game, he will be meditating and be blocking certain areas. He will warn you that if you come closer, he will attack and kill you. This is a contest after all, and he is prepared to defend himself. But he is actually the easiest contestant to get in a fight with. He will also cannot be recruited unless some very certain actions have been done. The only way you can is if you make your way all the way to the bunker in the woods. There he will be shot by an arrow, probably by August, and be weakened. He won't ever let you join your party unless he is in this weakened state. Here's your chance. The only other two interactions are when you're in the Church of Alll-Merr and check out the confessional. He will pretend to be a priest and ask you to perform a confession. You can do whatever you want in here, and you can gain Alll-Merr affinity by doing it. And he will come out and laugh. He's making a joke. He's not a priest of Alll-Merr. He'll find it funny and walk off. The only other event is if you are playing as him. Remember how we talked about Dan last time? How he will be in the White Mold apartments looking at a symbol that the Baron used to sacrifice his wife? Well, here if you're Osa, you can tell Dan that this symbol is for the Sulfur God. And if you want to learn about him, I did a whole video about him very early in this whole Fear and Hunger craze. You can watch it here. But other than that, the last one that can happen is if you are Osa and do the A ending. When you fight the Kaiser, the head will speak up and call Kaiser a bastard baby. And then he will say that Osa has a big penis. For some reason. This is the reason Astra wanted to go to Brahevel. He wanted to kill the Kaiser, but once you beat him, he will just fade away, not die. And after this, the only thing to be done is be absorbed by logic, making Osa effectively die, or at least lose all sense of self. Whatever happens to Nashra is unknown. But if Osa wins the festival, he will throw Nashra in a lake. He will open his own church and it will gain fame and fortune from around the world. But other than that, that's all the playable contestants of Fear and Hunger 2 Termina. But we do have 3 more unplayable contestants to go in this video. So let's get into those. My favorite non-playable contestant is now here with Pav. Pav was born on December 21st, probably in the 1910s or early 1920s. He was born in a place called the Veronian Republic, and probably had a somewhat decent childhood at least, I would assume. Because when his hometown and country were destroyed, he vowed revenge on those responsible. And who was responsible other than the Kaiser himself? But killing the Kaiser of the world superpower that is the Bremen Empire would not be easy. It's likely that he would never even get a chance to even see the Kaiser, let alone kill him. So Pav thought of a devious yet pretty genius plan. You see, Pav's whole reason for living at this point was to get revenge. It didn't matter what he did or who he had to kill to get it. He would do it no matter what. He would kill the Kaiser. So his plan was to join the Kaiser. He would become a part of the Bremen Empire. Here he would gain the Kaiser's trust by being the perfect Bremen soldier. If he was brutal enough and perfect enough, maybe, just maybe, he could meet the Kaiser and have his chance to kill him. So Pav did exactly that. By being especially cruel and brutal, Pav rose through the Bremen army's ranks. Here he would become a lieutenant. Once he was high enough rank, he heard some information that the Kaiser would be going to Brahevel to find something he's been searching for, and with minimal security with him at that. Seeing this as his opportunity, Pav hopped on the train by himself to go there too. From here the game starts. Pav is a little different from everybody else, however, at the beginning of the journey. Once the train has stopped, Pav just leaves. You don't even get to see him. He doesn't need the train to get any closer anyway. He will leave before anyone else. Cameron will be the only one to even see him leave. From here, he will look around for the Kaiser. He has a couple events in the main game. If you find a Bella and go with her to find one of the keys of the city, he will meet you after you leave the bunker, saying he's proud of you, and you should find another key that'll help you both get into the city, seemingly being helpful. He will also flirt with a Bella if you are a Bella, until he jokingly says he'll kill you later. With a smile, he'll leave. The next time you can see him is during day 2, where he will be pointing a gun at Marco and Tanaka, where unless you intervene, he will kill them both. I find this sort of strange, however, because I don't see why he would do this. His whole goal is to kill the Kaiser, so why would he kill the others? I feel like he wouldn't even care if he won the festival or not, as long as he got his revenge. But maybe I'm giving him too much credit, and he actually is just willing to kill everyone and live. The last time you can see him is either on day 1 or day 2 night. He will actually find the Kaiser right under the Hollow Tower, where he will challenge him and be cut down without a second thought. Pav will survive though, but just barely. You can take him back to the train and he will survive until day 3 night, or he will pass away due to his injuries not being treated. So no matter what, Pav cannot survive or Moonscorch. That is, unless you get to the A ending before Day 2 night, in which case he can, but without his revenge coming to pass. Samarie is our next one, and she is weird. She reminds me of Toko from Danganronpa. Samarie was born in January, somewhere in either 1923 or 1924, seeing as she is a similar age to Marina. We don't know much about her early life, but she went to the same school as Marina in the Vatican. However, unlike Marina, she was born with a special gift. She was especially gifted in occultism. Not through hard work, however, but through sheer talent. Because of this, she was put in something called the Ninth Circle, a sect of the school that Marina went to. This sect would do a ritual to the old gods, where they would let their bodies waste away to the point of near death to see the messages from the old gods. Although a huge toll on the body is taken, Samarie was gifted with incredible occult abilities because of this, such as mind reading, teleportation, necromancy, and extremely strong blood magic. Despite this, however, she is extremely frail and weak. While she was doing this ritual, she would meet, or at least see, Marina from afar, where she would fall in love, or at least become obsessed with her. She will never even meet Marina beforehand, however. Once Marina leaves, Samarie will either escape this ritual, or they will allow her to leave. She will follow Marina to Prehevil, and will wait just out of sight so no one can ever see her. She will find her way to Marina's father's church, though, where she will kill him because she knows that there is tension between Marina and him. Samarie did her research on Marina, almost to a point of being scary. Samarie will make sure that the only connection that Marina has in this world is Samarie. If you find her there, you can watch her quote-unquote kill Marina's father. If you find her on Day 1 morning, you can convince her to come back to the train and rest. If you are Marina, you have some extra dialogue in addition to this, with Marina saying that she has legit never seen Samarie and does not know who she is. Samarie will Moonscorch at any other time other than Day 1 morning, where she will become Dysmorphia. With this, we can kind of infer that she might have a problem with how she looks or her body, because of the term dysmorphia, but we really don't know much else about her. She is one of the more secretive ones, but I do like her. She's interesting. And our last Termina contestant is now Tanaka. Tanaka probably has the least lore on him, but he has a decent amount of in-game events. All we really know about his past is that he is a businessman from a country called Edo. He was born in August in probably the early 1900s. He is a businessman who took over his father's business. He didn't want to, probably, as his father was way too hard on him. He traveled to Prehevil to capitalize on the war-torn nation, and well, as you can probably figure out, he found himself in a really bad situation. Tanaka has a tendency to die in a lot of ways. It takes a lot to keep him alive. He can die from the woodsman, needles, Pav, and other ways. If you keep him alive through all of that, though, he will ask Marco to train him, where after Day 2, he will be training with Marco. He will have a red headband on and everything. If he stays alive long enough, he will transform into Judgment. Other than that, though, Tanaka doesn't have a lot of lore on him. Just yet, at least. But with that, we've covered all the Termina contestants. I really do appreciate it if you could like this video and subscribe, because it helps me out a lot. But if you have any more lore suggestions for Fear and Hunger, let me know in the comments, and I might even do a video on them. As this entire lore group of videos about all the playable characters was suggested by a guy in the comments named CraigMachine8137. So I really do read every comment. Thank you all, I love you all, and I'll see you soon.